name I pray, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one God, indivisible, with liberty and honor to the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, at this time, any person with business before the court not scheduled on the agenda may speak to the court. No formal action can be taken on these items at this minute. At this meeting, each speaker will be limited to 3 minutes. Okay. Go ahead and start with presentation and discussion of department head and committee board reports. Any thoughts or questions?
You reach out to the department heads about maybe us getting a report from.
I mentioned that you did ask them about that. I did mention it to them that you would ask, that you had requested that.
Good.
Hadn't seen one in a long time.
Really?
Really. Would you like an email you were asking
Yes,
about?
yes. I mean, it is a requirement, is it not?
Yes.
About stage.
State.
Uh-huh.
Okay, any more thoughts or discussion on the board reports? Let's move into old business court to discuss and consider increasing project schedule and staffing.
Working every day,
Every day.
just keep it coming. And fighting fires, working in the day, fighting fires in the weekend, the night. All the way to Kent County.
Sunday night.
Mm-hmm.
How much have they got control in that fire?
My understanding was they controlled it.
They got it out?
It got into Scurry County before they did.
Okay, good.
Kent County. We got 3 boys. They were there before we were.
Oh, my goodness, it takes us 2 hours to get there, that far up.
All right, court consider accepting donations to county entities. We have $1,000 to the golf course from an anonymous donor for the purpose of irrigation. And then senior center, $680 and $2,695. And those are the only two.
I'll make a motion to accept donations as presented.
All in favor? All right, it's court to discuss and consider contracting with Purple Wave Auction Company. We were looking at doing auctions in the past. Dre, thank you for coming today. Part of the problem with the route that we were looking at was we needed somebody to put everything together as far as lists and pictures and all of that. Met Dre last year, and he says that they do everything. So can you kind of give us a rundown of what y'all do?
I've got some information everybody can look at. I have these out, when you get a chance, but I'm gonna kind of go over the things that are in that right now. Purple Wave Auction, been around over 25 years, based out of Manhattan, Kansas. Hence the name Purple Wave, Kansas State, that's the home of Kansas State.
That makes sense.
Me personally, I'm a Snyder native. raised right down the road from precinct 1, so I'm sure I know my mom, so she was a tax collector here for many years. Anyway, what Purple Wave does, we are a turnkey service. We come in, we do all the pictures, videos of your equipment. It can stay at each precinct. It can stay wherever you want it. You don't have to move it anywhere at your expense. So we do that. We put it up online on the internet. We are internet platform only, so we don't have live auction. It's on the internet. It'll be on the internet 3 to 4 weeks, and then it'll have a day that it closes. We have a government auction every 2 weeks. We have a construction auction every 2 weeks, vehicles every 2 weeks, farm equipment every 2 weeks. So we have several. And any one, the page that Mr. Hicks is looking at there, it shows kind of our presence in the country. We are, government entities is 18% of our business. So we do lots of government entities. We do several of your surrounding counties I already work with. We do Taylor County. If you need some references, I can give you 20 of those. But we do the whole state of Kansas. We do lots of government. Like I said, we are no reserve platform, so we start at 0. And if you go to purplewave.com, you'll see things don't go cheap. I mean, they go somewhere between probably a wholesale and a retail level. Like if you're looking for a piece of equipment, we're going to be cheaper than dealers going to charge you. More than they're going to give you for trading on a piece of equipment. So the amount of bids and bidders that we have every auction is 3,000 or 4,000 per auction. So large area. We sell all over the world. I've sold dozer out of Odessa that went to Australia. I've sold a maintainer in Lubbock that went to Cairo, Egypt. So we did have a lot of worldwide presence. Bigger than you're going to get local if you're just having a local auction. So.
Okay. So, like I said, one of the issues was us getting, you go to each department and.
We can, it's up to you. We start with here, and usually each commissioner kind of knows what they want to sell, or each department.
Sure.
And you can accumulate a list, or I can contact them. Okay. But then we schedule a time with them for our data guys to do all the work.
Okay. How do you get paid?
We get paid from the buyer. We charge government entities 0. Now, if you do like computers and desks and things like that, we'll probably charge 3%. But we normally, for any other equipment, vehicles, or government entities, we charge 0 to sell. Okay. On a normal industry basis, we charge $100 per asset to sell.
Okay.
But we have a 10% buyer's premium, and that's where we make our money is off the buyer. So it's a very good deal for governments.
Okay. Any questions? Any thoughts?
It's no reserve, so regardless, the equipment goes for whatever the last bid is.
It will sell. If you've got a couple of bidders that are interested in a piece of equipment, if you've been to a live auction, your auctioneer's gonna hit the hammer. He's gotta go to that next week's time. He's got a lot. Ours extends. They'll extend 5 minutes as long as there's 2 people or more bidding. So it's not gonna cut them off. It can extend another hour. But on the day it closes, there's a time that it's gonna close. And so if one bids, it gives the other one 5 minutes to overbid. And it'll bounce back and forth till one quits. So, but it will sell.
Okay.
And I encourage you to go in and look at the results on Purple Wave. Look at the results tab and even pick out some auctions and look and see what things have sold for. And right now, things are going for very good amounts because people can't get them. There's a shortage on new things, new vehicles, new equipment. So used equipment, used vehicles and things are going for a premium.
Everything else.
Yes.
Okay.
And I'll be glad if you have any questions. I'll leave some cards here, so if somebody later has a question. Somewhere here. But anyway, just feel free to holler at me.
All right. Thank you, Joe. You wanna look at it and come back to it later, or? Okay. Court canvass returns for from the constitutional amendment election held May 7th, 2022.
I bet she didn't. Did she?
I didn't.
All the totals are the same. I mean, everything worked out. Let me go, if we can move it down, Judge.
Yes, we can
Let me
come
go
back.
have her print that right quick.
All right.
We've been so busy with everything.
All right, court to discuss and consider entering into an agreement with Axiomed to assist with EMS collection. Jason?
Commissioners, Judge. Axiomed is a program or a company that works with our current billing software and program. It opens up to a patient portal, as well as a credit card machine that's a cheaper interest rate than what we're currently paying. From 4%, what we're currently paying down to 2.99. It also provides a patient portal so that the patients can get online and pay their bills or set up a payment plan online. And so the attempt here is to essentially bring more revenue in, make it easier for our patients to pay. Something that most healthcare facilities and entities are doing now. Currently, we accept checks. Really not, once you call it one company, they can process the credit card from, or your credit card from there. So this brings it back into the home without writing a check. There's not too many people that write checks anymore. And then it'll cost us, I believe, $59 a month for that service, that patient portal service, which is essentially 3/4 of what we're paying in credit card fees now. So that basically even its way out, especially if we increase the revenue, we'll actually be making more money. The treasurer has been in meetings with it as well. So we would basically open up her office, I hope, to accept payments as well as the ambulance service. So basically it makes it easier all the way around to collect revenue, additional revenue.
You think this will, since it'll make it easier, people will pay?
I hope so. I hope so. I mean, in my report, you see the adjustments being adjusted off and then the aging. And the aging is no phase. So hopefully we can, the goal is to take that 80 and we're gonna drop it.
Do they send out like collection letters if they,
We do have a collection company through Colorado City, or Colorado Springs.
so that's.
But we don't
Separate.
give them the easy ones. We try very hard to collect what we need to collect before we send them to collection. Because their collection rate on our end is much, much higher than 7%. So we try not to give them very many, but yes, we do send some over.
Yeah, but I mean, they're gonna converse with each other, so that Axiom.
Yeah, so this,
Pay one.
yeah, it creates a streamline for our patients. Basically, when they sit down to pay bills online, they hopefully will pay ours as well. Instead of writing a check and mailing it or calling our billing service and running the credit card machine.
When Axiom collects,
Mhm.
will they then advise your collection agency or advise you?
No, it's a streamlined process, so it automatically sends a report to our third-party billing agency.
Okay.
So, yeah, and then we'll see it on our end, it'll go directly into our, in the general fund, and then be separated out. I think it's once a month.
It's every 24, 48 hours.
Oh, that's right.
It'll go into.
The collection agency not knowing, and they send them a letter, a nasty letter.
No, this will actually decrease the collection. That's my hope, is that we'll decrease the accounts that go to collection. This has nothing to do with the collections.
Okay.
It gets sent to CSC, which is our collection company.
Okay,
That's a totally different.
these are all current accounts.
Yeah, these are all current accounts that
Okay,
have not been
gotcha.
sent.
Gotcha.
Yeah. We try not to send, we don't want to send anybody there. But after several attempts, and we have a program, similar program the hospital uses to try to find insurance information. We're communicating with the hospital to try to find updated insurance information and account information. But this will be just one more layer of fees for our patients that will attempt to increase revenue.
It also allows to set up a payment plan automatically so they can select that.
So we've got one home for them home with things going to collections. If they're in an active payment plan, then they shouldn't be sent to
Like you
collections.
said, collection.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good deal to me.
What's the term? Is it month by month, year by year, 3 year?
No, the terms and conditions will be reviewed by the county attorney once it's approved. But the terms is, once we sign the agreement, there really isn't a deadline.
So it's basically month by month. Yes.
Yeah. all of that.
So you can opt out anytime you want.
But once we get this set up, we'll be off to that.
No,
If we have to.
I mean, you can create all the cash you want to. If you don't collect it, you don't.
Well, yeah, if we're seeing no benefit to us, then obviously we'll opt out.
I appreciate you looking at it.
I think this is the way, kind of open the door to catch us back up with technology and how claims are being paid. So, and it'll give our patients an opportunity to pay both at the treasurer's office and my office, and just kind of open up that area as well.
So 59 a month. So you said.
Yes.
No percent. No percent.
Well, yes, on the credit cards, 2.9.
Okay.
But we're paying 4 now.
Yeah, that's lower.
And that's not given to the customer. We're actually gonna pay that.
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, in other areas, like y'all charge a fee,
That
right?
goes to the customer, pays it, we don't.
Yeah, and so does the tax office. So I just wondered if y'all are asking to pay. I mean, you're lucky to get your money. So maybe the way that people think about healthcare.
It's we will pay that.
Well, you're paying the 4% now.
Yes. It's kind of hard to pass that on to, I mean, you can do it, and the city does it all the time, but
You can't, if you can't collect the account though, you're not gonna collect that 4%.
No.
Well, I think it's a good thing, and I make a motion that we, whatever we do. That we, what's the word now? I make a motion that we enter into an agreement with Addendum to assist with EMS collection.
Second.
All in favor? We'll go ahead and continue with Jason. Court to consider request from Jason Tyler, EMS Director, to move funding from Texas Class Scout to EMS budget for construction of 2 carports on the west end of the Armory parking lot for ambulance storage.
So we are out of room at our office, as you know. I'm not going to be trading off ambulances because there's no ambulances out there to get. We were really, really lucky to get a grant and acquire a free Type 1 ambulance that we put in service yesterday. And so we got a brand new free ambulance that was a $217,000 grant. So we were lucky to get that. We got that truck in service, like I said yesterday. But since I'm not trading ambulances off, I need a place to put them. We were looking at, there's lots of options. I can't put any more cover where I'm at unless I start moving electricity. So at the Armory, we can put a concrete, I'll build onto the existing carport that's there at the Armory on the west end. That's gonna be anywhere from 24 to 25,000 because concrete's, what, Cody, $200 a square yard? So pretty close. So I'm thinking, instead of doing that we just build some carports on the west end where we don't have to lay concrete, which would basically cut the price in half. And then the other thought is to go ahead and put a container, start with a container, because Big Country Electric said that they'll put electric pole in there for free. They don't have to pay an electrician to run a wire down to get power to it. Put a little breaker box there and run power to those carports or to a container that's got essentially has a cooler in it, so we can start storing PPE items or other stuff for both the health unit and EMS for emergency disaster, since the health unit is our alternate care site as well as our in the disaster, where our cots and stuff are at. So my thought process was to put a container. Today, the container price is $5,100. Changes every day. That's for a 20-foot container, brand new. We would put an air conditioner in it to help temperature control. That's similar to what's out at the repeater site in the repeater building. And then build off of that, and build 2 carports that we could add on to in another year. So we would basically eventually start just adding carports as we need to along that west end of the parking lot. So what the container cost, 24 by 24 by 12, you're looking at about 17.5. That's without electricity. So, but like I said, Book Country said that they'll run that for free, that power pole, and then what pay electricity. We can drop the container and not do the container issue and just start with carports, and that's about 12.4, somewhere in that range, 12.4, 12.5 to do that project. So I don't really want to transfer money out of that account because I need it. But I've got to do something to store these ambulances. And if we don't, I'll just store them down at the armory and without any cover. But I've got to put them someplace. The other option, like I said, it's about 25,000 foot concrete and add on to that existing carport that's at the armory. It's about half of that to just build the carports on the west end.
Have you spoken to the Parks Department since they've taken over the barn now for equipment to see if they have the space available to put those in that? Or in one of the?
I did not specifically ask them about the barn. I asked them about the cage, or the bullpen, or whatever you want to call it up there. They don't have any room up there. I inquired about the using that second carport that they've got temporarily, and they said that was fine. But I did not ask specifically about the barn. But yeah, we've been in communications about different options. So
That's a pretty big barn there, behind the barn that we actually had our meetings in. And certainly the doors are large enough, I would think, to get an ambulance in there or 2. And if we could do that, that would prevent us from having to put just carports. That could be inside a closed building.
yep, I can inquire about that.
I don't mind agreeing to, if that's not feasible, to allow you to get carports. I think that you don't leave, especially with the kind of weather that we've been experiencing in the past years, you don't leave good equipment out in the weather. Are you talking about carports like you see along the roads here? Or are you talking about building, somebody to come in and actually build it on site?
No, somebody to, with the vandalism in the park, I think those carports won't make it. So I'm talking about dropping some poles however feet down.
Yeah.
Getting it to where it ain't gonna move, especially in a windstorm, because we put the carport on, it's more protected if we do by the armory. If we build in the armory, that's concrete work. I guess we don't necessarily have to put concrete, and put bleaching down in there if you wanted to, but might not look the best. But to put it out in the open on that west end, you're gonna have to have something to hold them down. You're gonna have to have something to hold them down, with these concrete poles in the ground, and do it. You have to build something that's good. It's not gonna go away.
What he's talking about, I made it back there. What he's talking about this is in the southwest corner.
Mhm.
And, well, I was in the barn the other day, and I don't think you get a right on the barn.
Okay. Well, I mean, I know that it looks full in the past,
Yeah.
but how much of that in there that they could
But they don't know.
better efficiently put it in there, and because some of that stuff's been there forever, they don't use, so if they clean some of that junk out, that certainly is a barn that stayed good forever, so.
I agree.
If it's possible, that just saves you a lot of trying to construct something that's already there.
Yeah.
The other thought, and I don't even know if this is feasible or not, we've got several hangars out at the airport. Now, that may be too far,
No,
but if I mean, if we've got hangars that we can store ambulances in, they are,
all rented out.
I'm sorry, are they all rented out? Okay, even the new one
Yes.
completely? I mean, they have all, but they need all the.
The other,
It's got 3 in it, don't it?
yeah, and the other thing with that is you can't, AA says you can't use anything
Okay.
but aircraft.
Okay. So, well, you gotta try.
Well,
We can build carports at the airport, I really don't care, something that
that's,
protects them.
You just run out of space. I mean, you
yeah,
need more space.
That's pretty much.
Well, I'm good now, but when my awesome mechanics get done with my other truck, then I'm gonna be in trouble. So,
Stay in trouble.
huh?
You stay in trouble.
Yeah, I do, actually. Correct. So, we've
Nobody
got,
said that.
we've got 2 months, to get this decided on what we're gonna do. When that other truck comes out, I'll be out of room. But like I said, I can park that other one under the carport that's currently there under that second one. I don't know how far first one's filled up that. I want to take their second space, but I'll do it.
Let's table this until, and I'll go out there with you to the park
Yeah,
and see what can be done, what can't be done.
that sounds good.
That way, if, if there is something, it's sure save you $12,000.
As far as security is concerned, right down here by the annex, we've got a chain link fence around that you could build a carport in and tie it down and.
Oh, and, old tennis court?
Yeah.
Yeah. I forget about that.
And there is a carport right there at the back of that annex that you could certainly house an ambulance in. That's very well made.
We'll revisit that in June. All right, let's go back to court candidates returns from the constitutional amendment election held May 7th, 2022. Thank you, Jason.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, guys, sorry about that. Laura thought she gave them to Cynthia, but. And you'll notice on your second page, we do also show the councilman race and the trustee race, which we did it all at the same time to help them out. So really all we're canvassing today is the state prop 1 and state prop 2.
6%.
Yeah, very slow, very low numbers.
The motion canvass the May 7th returns from the constitutional amendment election.
Second.
All in favor? Court to consider approval of treasurer's monthly report for April 2022. If you want to go ahead and do the personnel.
Yeah, we can do
Same
them all
time.
together. Another busy month with personnel changes. And employees working overtime, we are continuing to see an increase in our interest rates, which is very good. So hopefully we keep it going. Any questions?
How much of a change from before, well, a year? How much have the interest rates improved in a year?
0.25%, don't quote me on anything, is better
Right.
than where we were.
It's going up.
Yes.
Down.
Yeah.
That's always better.
Always better, yeah.
Motion to approve the treasurer's monthly report for April and personnel report.
All in favor? Court to consider certification of additional revenues in the form of a donation for irrigation at the golf course.
I don't have that
No.
certification, so I think that was inadvertently left on from
Oh, okay,
the 30,000 that was donated.
okay.
I do have 2 certifications, just not the golf
Okay.
course one.
Okay. Court to discuss and consider going after bids on surplus equipment in precinct 1 by online auction.
Yeah, in the past, when I first came in and I sold equipment all over the world for every precinct. The first piece of equipment I sold for what we paid for it after it was 5 years old. And sold multiple pieces of equipment, just like Dre said, having a local auction is not the way. Because you're just not gonna get, they were getting 10 to 15,000 for 30-year-old motor graders, and I was getting 35,000. And sold them to Australia, Morocco. I found that once you take the cab off, put it in a container, it doesn't cost any more to go to China as it does to go to Philippines. And these people buying them, taking them to Africa, trucks as well. And so I would like to, the unitized system kind of messed all that up. But I'd like to go ahead and we'll put it in the lab, we'll put it in the paper for 2 weeks. And then on the website, we will put the numbers that will be needed by those that want to bid on the equipment on the website so that you can easily find the equipment. Anybody can. And see if we can continue to be able to sell used equipment for close to what we paid for it, so it's not costing the taxpayer so much money as to hold it for until it's worn completely out and you get nothing for it. And so the second piece of equipment, by the way, that I sold, I made 35,000 over what we paid for it. So if we can do that, then we can keep our equipment in good shape, keep good equipment under warranty. We have 5 years. You can't sell a cat for 3 years after you buy one. They'll quit selling to you. John Deere, you can sell it the first year. And so if I don't know that John Deere will resell like cats do. Not many years ago, they would have better than cats because the new equipment they brought out, the M had joysticks in it and very sensitive and nobody liked them, but now they actually have them back to work. So that's what I was looking at, Judge.
Put a reserve on it, also.
Oh, I definitely, yes.
How many pieces of equipment are you talking about?
2.
No other percent. Needs it.
Well, if we can find out that they will resell the way that we think they will, then I'll be glad to help whoever wants to do whatever until we decide on Purple Wave. But the other way.
No, well,
eBay is a very large corporation that sells, I mean, they're all over the world. And I've had super luck with them getting it sold. And like you said, you can put a reserve on it. They're not 0% for governments, but the return you get is above average. And right now, equipment is, like Ray said, it's going at a premium.
Mhm.
And so with this, I can pay off my second leased motor grader. I already paid the first one off, but I can pay it off and then have the money for the equipment that we need.
never make you try.
Yes, that's right. Been a long time. So if it's okay, I'd like to make a motion that we allow me to use an online auction, eBay, to be able to sell surplus equipment.
Just these 2 pieces?
Right now, yes.
Or, I think that was correct.
The maintainer and front end loader.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Of the eBay auctions, are they done like with an official Scurry County name?
It will state that you wouldn't want to sell equipment on eBay without letting the person know it's from a county, because that's what people want.
I'm just
Because we don't
asking,
put
is,
the hours on the machines that construction companies do. So absolutely.
well, I'm
it
just
will state
asking if
it's
the
from
eBay, if the eBay account that's gonna be used for these eBay auctions, is this an official county username or what, however you do this on
It will
eBay?
be through the county.
That's not what I'm asking. I mean, it's not like Terry Williams,
It is not.
okay,
It used to be, because there was no credit card for any of us. We have credit cards, and that's what's required.
okay.
Definitely.
We have a motion. Is there a second?
I second. 211.
All in favor? Court to discuss and consider installation of culvert at Jimmy Nix's and Patricia Nix's to avoid pond from the water park. So you brought this up well, Jimmy brought it up, initially, and then you spoke to him, and, the main thing this needs to do is serve a public interest, and backing up water into the park and flooding it out, I believe, would serve a public interest.
If you've ever been in a park, and we've had rains like, I don't know, the other day, along with the high on the hills.
Yeah.
Every bit of that water goes through.
Yes.
And, he's agreed about the culvert. Deal with the lead, which I think, my opinion, is very fair. Because I looked at what he's got and it needed to be fixed yesterday, but guess what? It's full.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
But anyway, I would like y'all's, I mean, we discussed it last time, whatever to do or not do.
I agree.
I do too.
It absolutely needs to be done.
I'll make a motion that we do, the labor on, installing color at Jimmy Nix's.
Thank you. Court to consider, or court to discuss and consider, slow I'm down, consider certification of additional revenues in the form of grant funds from sale of assets.
Okay, we received $807. This was, metal sold from receipt 4. And since he's not in for me to find out what line he wants it replaced back into, right now it's just into the sale of asset lines until when he returns to find out where to place the funds to. But it was $807 that he sold metal.
Motion to certify the revenues and have $807 precinct 4 the sale of it.
Oh, okay. Court to consider certification of additional revenues in the form of supplement payments from TAC for MVD supplement claim on the youth center roof due to hail damage. And this is the previous hail damage, that the
Yes.
cracks finally got
Right,
tightened
the
up.
stuff finally made it work, so it's $39,202.62 that we received. And there will be a budget amendment going to the roofs for everything that we've received so far because it's a lot of damage.
If this polymer roofs continue to crack, as some experts believe it will, us taking this payment doesn't keep us from collecting more in the future, does it?
Not from our insurance.
I mean, they would, if they come back and we could call them and tell them, hey, look, there's a lot more cracking going on, so.
From what I understand from the report that Greg Carroll sent me, he's been talking to, I forget the guy's name from PAC, that's the agent on, and he actually is the reason, Greg is actually the reason we were able to get this
Yeah.
additional amount, because he was like, no, you need to come back out and look. And so from my understanding, from the correspondence he sent me, is he's been very on top of it, and I think that if it continues to get worse, TAC would then send a supplemental check again, because they've been very good about that.
Okay. And so, what I've been hearing from, they're saying there's 8 cracks and he's saying there's 22. And you're saying he got them back out to look at those
Yes.
to show them.
Yes,
Okay.
and there was another report submitted when they sent the
Perfect.
39,000.
Thank you. That's good.
Motion on certify the additional revenue for supplemental payments to TAC for the youth center due to it.
Second.
All in favor? Okay. I'm gonna go ahead and go to the addendum now. Court to discuss and hear presentation from TAC on health insurance. Kirsten and I talked to Kathy not too long ago. You are the bearer of good news.
Actually, it is better
It's
news
better
than
news
what
now?
I gave you back in March, and Stacy Brewington, the wellness consultant, is with me today. These are the reports. And we will try to make this as brief as we can because we know insurance is so exciting. The first page, that we'll kind of talk about that first box where it has current coverages. We've just started including that because a lot of people can't remember from year to year exactly what plan or what, products they have through TAC. That bottom box below that, the claims experience, is how Scurry County has been running for the last 3 years. That 100% loss ratio or claims experience looks really high, but over the last 5 years, that's actually lower than what it has been. So I'm kind of happy to see that 100% compared to years past. Over on the next side, your high cost claimants, really you have 3 that we're concerned about because they are pretty pricey. And one of your high cost claimants that's over the $200,000 mark is actually close to pushing $1 million. It is a life-threatening, well, your top 2 are actually life-threatening conditions for these claimants. And so, you know, we're keeping a close eye on those, just because we want to make sure everybody's okay. But whenever you want to look at your claims and where the dollar amounts are occurring, it's going to be mainly with those top 3. It's where the bulk of the cost of your claims are coming from. That bottom box, what we call the credibility formula and factors. We start looking at this whenever we start doing renewals, which of course we're fixing to hit the end of this week. We hit renewal season. So whenever we go in and do the renewals for all of our groups, we don't just look at your claims. We do look at the dollar amounts, but we also look at those diagnostic categories associated with them. But then we also look at those other factors. Because a lot of our groups that I deal with in the Northwest Territory are super small counties, maybe 20 employees total. Those groups are not credible or predictable, meaning anything that can happen. For Scurry County, with y'all having an average of 163 employees for the last year, y'all have a slight predictability to your claims. But what we've seen in the past, what I've talked with Judge Hicks and Kirsten, is basically what we're seeing in your claims, we're seeing throughout the floor. But your credibility factor is low. Predictability factor is low for a group. So we take all of this into consideration whenever we're doing the renewals. Whenever y'all look at that 100% loss ratio, we are seeing that in nearly every single one of our groups. It's been a bad year for the state of Texas for our pool. Claims, even in, we've been talking to large insurance carriers like Blue Cross Blue Shield, United, Aetna. We've even been talking with TML, who has a lot of the municipalities. Everything we're seeing in our claims for our groups, they are seeing the same thing. Claims are just incredibly high coming out of COVID. There's a lot going on there that we're still trying to get a handle on. But like I said, we factor in all of this whenever we go to do the renewal, and that's just kind of how we do it. But one of the things, like I said, we look at the average age. For Scurry County, on average, out of all the counties in the state of Texas, y'all are about 8.6% older. That's not unusual for this territory. We typically, in our groups, run about 10%. It seems to kind of be the consensus. Area factor is we look at what it costs per dollar on the cost of care. Y'all's, for Scurry County is 3% more. That's actually lower than most of the counties in the territory. Part of that is because y'all are so close to Lubbock, and that's where the majority of the employees go for their care, if it's major. Lubbock is one of the lowest cost places we've got for the cost of care, actually throughout the state. And then, like I said, then we've got your credibility, predictability factor that we've got there. The next page is we get on page 2 is just the enrollment demographics, and we like to include this. It breaks out average age on employees, spouses, dependent children. But closer to that bottom section is kind of where we like to see the breakdown. Because what the insurance industry tells us is on average, the younger your average age is, the lower your claims are gonna be. Also, but whenever you see that split out between male and female, it also tells us females are actually going to be less costly because they're actually going to the doctors and staying on top of their health. So we really need to start working on those stubborn men to get them back into the doctors and get them to taking care of themselves. So that's why we include this, because if you read those notes on the side, those decreases are good news. Page 3 is just the year over year for the last 3 years, your financial dashboard showing what was paid out for medical and pharmacy. Keep in mind, after about March of 2020 was when we really started seeing an increase in COVID claims, and y'all did get hit hard with COVID. We saw the increase that second year, and then we're starting to see it drop back down over the last 12 months. Everything's going back more in line with what we have seen in the past. And that's, we really like seeing that, because we've got a lot of groups that it wasn't a straight up, kind of steep. On this, because, everybody keeps going where our claims are so high, is it due to COVID? I wish we could blame every single thing bad with our claims on COVID. We can't. The thing that we can point out is on that, what we're seeing coming out, because people weren't able to go to the doctors. We saw a pretty good decrease in cancer screenings. That's not good, because coming out of that, people going and getting their cancer screenings done again, is we're seeing an increase in cancers. We've pretty much quadrupled our cancer claims within the whole pool within just the last 12 months. So that's really what's driving our claims, are the cancers within the pool. It's just throughout the state. Back whenever we first started working on renewals and doing that analysis, our actuaries and all the people who work on that for us were telling us basically, if a group has one cancer claimant, they've got a second one. If they don't have one in their diagnostic categories, it's just because it hasn't been detected yet. But like I told Judge Hicks and Crystal back in March, does that mean we're going to see one in every single group? No, it just means that maybe one that's missing out of y'all's claims data may be actually down in another county in a different region. That can only really give us a really good prediction on how many we're going to have for the year. So that's kind of where we are with that one. On the top diagnostic categories,
that just dials down from the financial dashboard, taking a closer look at your total medical spend. So number one across the board, as Kathy mentioned, is your cancers, followed by musculoskeletal, infectious diseases, talking about the COVID, nervous system, endocrine, and digestive. And we'll dial that down in a little bit as well, because a lot of those have to do with your chronic conditions.
And whenever we look at those top diagnostic categories, I actually went back to 5-6 years ago, looked at that. That top diagnostic category has been y'all's for years. The actual number of cancer claimants are down. It's just, it is so costly to treat. And that's why your dollar factor is the way it is. If you look at your second category and your third category, especially when it is regards to musculoskeletal, if we can get those claims down, not people not going to the doctor, but better management of those conditions, those cancer claimants, that category is still gonna have an impact on their claims, but if we get those other claims down to where they're less costly, it's gonna help bring the impact won't be as great. Okay, so that's where we're gonna start seeing a lot of, kind of working on those those conditions and working with the employees and the members. Page 5, because after I was meeting with y'all and during that whole time period while I was going out and doing a lot of the meetings, one of the questions we got asked was, why would we stay with the pool? Because honestly, whenever I was here before, we were honestly looking at having to go out with a double-digit across the board increase. That's what the thinking was back in February and March. And so, that's what we were, hearing was, groups that had really good years over the last several years, and all of a sudden, they have all these high cost claimants. Why would they stay with the pool knowing they could be looking at a back renewal? This history report is why it's beneficial for groups to stay with us. For Scurry County specifically, the last 5 years, your claims experience or loss ratio averages out to be 114%. However, whenever we look at your renewal rates for that same time period, you're only averaging 5.4% increase. We also have been asked, why is there an increase pretty much year over year? We also compare it to, like I said, with RMS, the risk management side, but then it handles your property and casualty. You have to look at it the same way. The difference is, unfortunately, y'all have some really bad storms this last couple of years, so y'all have claims, but your medical, you're always gonna have claims, even if it's just people going and making sure their health is good. You're always going to have claims, and that cost of care is always going to go up. So unless the pool is just having a phenomenal year, you can expect at least a little bit of an increase year over year, just because the cost continues to rise. But also, you're not going to see that with other insurance carriers. Like I said, we've been talking to Blue Cross, United, Aetna, everybody. They're going out with a 15% minimal increase this year. TML is the closest to us, and they're going out with a 12 average increase. But then those other insurance carriers don't turn money back if it's available, and we do. Scurry County has received $178,000 back from the pool over the last 5 years. So that's, we understand it's expensive, but whenever our reserve account makes money, we don't keep it, we turn it back to the groups. And then I'll let Stacy talk about those chronic conditions and stuff.
So as I mentioned a while ago, take a look at your financial dashboard and your top diagnostic categories. What percentage of that is comprised of your chronic conditions? So number 1 is your heart disease. And number 2 is coronary artery disease, asthma, COPD, followed by diabetes. And that is no surprise. That's true across the board for the pool, for the state, and unfortunately, coast to coast for Americans. We're looking at heart disease, number 1, diabetes, number 2. So if you're looking at that top financial or top medical spend, 2.5 to 3 million, then that's the specific categories that are comprising that medical spend. And like Kathy mentioned, the power of the pool is not only riding the wave of ever increasing medical spend and being able to weather that with all the counties in that pool, is we come along beside you. We have the wellness programs to increase the members' health and well-being so that you don't see that medical spend trend up year after year after year. We have programs that we can come alongside and implement. You've done that as well in implementing your county-specific incentive. That was the first step. So we're well on the way. The next page is the pharmacy. So again, if you're looking at your financial dashboard for the last 3 years, wondering where that 4.5 to almost 600,000 is being spent, I know those drugs might be largely unfamiliar to you, but just know that those fit as well in your diagnostic categories. So if you've got heart disease and you've got diabetes and you've got asthma and COPD, then just know that's where your pharmacy spend is coming from as well. So we look at on the next page, number 8, and we're talking about the Healthy County participation. We're talking about those wellness programs, like Kathy mentioned. This really is your risk management for your medical spend. Think of this as your slip, trips, and falls insurance right here. The more people that we can get active and involved and engaged, again, we're going to start seeing a downward trend in your medical spend directly related to those chronic conditions. You hosted a wellness workshop last year. That's important to know and consider, because if you're having a wellness program and you're incentivizing members to get their annual physical exam and engage, well, where's the money coming from to incentivize those members? It's coming from the pool. Again, power of the pool. You've got $7,000 at your disposal. That's just based on, Scurry County membership, the size of your county. You've got $7,000 that you can get from the pool to fund your incentives for your county members. Sonic Boom is a second area where you get money back from the pool. We had about 8 members last year who got $60 of those member backs. That's another area where the county can get money from the pool. The county-specific incentive, that's your main part. That's 30% every year, and it's not based on participation. Doesn't matter how many county members get their annual exam, you pass that and get 30% every year. And we implemented that in 2022, and we are moving forward with that this year as well. So that's fantastic. Again, you've got $1,470 in your pocket this year that you can use to incentivize members to build on that engagement. Wonder Health is one of the programs that we have. It's a lifestyle management program for those who want to decrease the risk of heart disease and diabetes. You've got 12 members on that. Amada is another one of those lifestyle management programs. You've got 8. And then the Bongo is actually a chronic condition management program for diabetics and those with high blood pressure. And you've got 29. So those are definitely areas, if we can drive more members to those programs, that's what's available to you through the pool. I'll take a look at your annual exams every year, especially since you passed your CSI, that county-specific incentive. We want to see that trend up every year. If not, then we need to come back to the table and we need to say, what incentives can we add in? How can we get more members on board and getting their annual physical exams? Why? Because we don't know what we don't know. 1 in 3 of us are pre-diabetics and don't even know if we're not out getting our annual physical exam and finding those areas that we're at risk. So for 2021, you've got 55 members that got their annual exam. Now, this could be a little bit higher depending on the actual spreadsheet numbers, but that's just an average that we're getting back from Blue Cross Blue Shield. So we'll take a look at that every year and hopefully that will trend up. So your cost containment strategy is, again, taking advantage of every resource available through the pool, helping drive down your risk for chronic conditions through Livongo, Amada. Depression was in your top 10. In fact, I think it was number 6 or 7, and we're seeing that across the pool. With the effect of COVID and the pandemic in particular, we're seeing a rise in our depression and mental health. So we want to make sure that everybody knows about your employee assistance program available through the pool. Well-being management is available through Blue Cross Blue Shield. Continuing the county-specific incentive and taking a deep dive into that every year to see how we can build on that. Scheduling the health fairs and to do that, having catapult out, making sure that we're reducing those barriers for members to get their annual physical exam, not having to take off work, not having to go sit in a doctor's office for a couple of hours. encourage sonic boom or physical activity challenges. We'll come back, maybe we'll come back later and talk more in depth about ways that we can drive engagement or implement other physical activity challenges here specific to Scurry County. And then, of course, we'll look at enrollment meetings and workshops.
One of the reasons why we've really, over the last couple of years, really started concentrating on those chronic conditions goes back to that credibility and predictability factor. Like I said, we can't tell you how many cancer claimants you're gonna have over a year, how many births, or even how many premature births you're gonna have. We just know how many we will probably have for the pool as a whole. The thing we can tell you though is whenever it comes to those chronic conditions, just even over time, even if the conditions are well managed, over time, nearly every single one of those chronic conditions, it breaks down the human body and it does damage over time. And we know those chronic conditions over time will lead to something else. So it's really working with our members on, better management of those conditions. And maybe even in the case of with Omada and Luongo, reversing some of it. To where maybe it's not so catastrophic over the course of time. Because we all know county employees come on and they stay till they retire pretty much. So, just over time, it's going to happen. We're just trying to slow that down and maybe put it off some years, decrease it over.
Catastrophic
Yes.
events. And we have seen that in some of our counties that are more active and engaged in our programs. We call that return on investment, and we're starting to see that trend down. The catastrophic events that Kathy's talking about, those transplants, the heart attacks, amputations, unfortunately. So it's definitely there.
The last page I want to go over is page 11, that renewal timeline. I'll tell you, our board gave me on May 11th, they said the pool needed an amount. Thank goodness it was not the double digit that we were all anticipating. It should got to be 5.9% on average is what our groups will be getting. Then again, they start looking at each group individually, how the claims are running, those factors. They set our inflation rate for the pool as a whole. Inflation or trend, whenever it comes to medical and pharmacy, running about 8%. So we can, pretty much expect on average the cost of care on both sides to go up about 7 to 8% year over year. And that has stayed relatively the same over the last several years. Like I said, whenever they go and look at those individually, the board has currently assessed Scurry County a 7% increase on the medical this year. That's way below what it was last year. But it's, because like I said, I told them I was ready to ask for a leave of absence through this renewal period. Just because it was bad. It was horrible. But we made some changes on our end, mainly due with the pharmaceutical end of things. We saw really good returns on the copay max programs that we have available for those uber expensive drugs. So we're putting more of those in place. And basically, if a member goes to a copay max program, until those benefits expire, it doesn't even touch their benefits through their employer. Okay, the manufacturer's covering those costs. So that's going to help, and that's going to bring down our costs. And it brought it down about 3 to 4% over the full needed amount. The dental is going to see a 3.3% increase. Vision, that rate stayed the same. However, we were able to rework the contract to where employees that have that voluntary vision are going to get better copays for the same services. The copays went down. for the same monthly amount. We have our renewal webinar Thursday and Friday, where we will discuss all of this, go into probably a little bit more detail. And just some of the things that we have coming down the line over the next several months. And then starting on the 20th, hopefully, we will start sending out the October 1 renewals. Now keep in mind, Scurry County last year did move to a January renewal. So that don't expect your renewal till about August 23rd, okay? Good news with moving to that later date is because while the board set the renewal rates, we have a couple of board meetings in between then and whenever y'all's renewal rates go out, they will continue to assess for the December and January groups. They will look to see how claims are going, and if they can lower the rate, they will. I've been here, this is my 7th renewal season. I've only seen it happen to 2 groups. So I would not, whenever you start working on the budget, I wouldn't count on it. But we always do reserve that right that, maybe if the pool as a whole is running better, maybe we can back off of that a little bit more. But right now, basically with your 7%, you're getting the inflation or what we call trend increase is what it is. And then renewals will be due back to us on October 5th. So, and I will keep y'all updated as I know more. And the closer to the time when the renewals come out. Okay?
Y'all have any questions?
Yeah, I'd like to know when they're gonna start paying for integrative or alternative doctors.
Well, actually, that's kind of one of the things because we've had a lot of questions about, employers implementing wellness programs and doing stuff like that. On some of that, I don't know because the board is not comfortable until they can get good, solid medical data. But we're starting to look at health and wellness differently, and a lot of it's due to what our wellness consultants are bringing to the table and how they're handling it. So there's definitely, we're considering stuff that we might not have ever considered in the past.
We talked to Dr. Edwards in Lubbock. He can fill you up on everything you need to know. He is absolutely unbelievable in what he's doing in wellness and people that are getting well, not managing disease, actually seeing disease healed. And of course, not all disease, but some of it does have to be made up better off than what they were being constantly managed.
One of the biggest hurdles we have faced and this has been for years, has been the mindset of, I can just take this pill and I don't have to change anything else. And we're finally starting to see a shift from that mindset
To change your habits.
to change your habits. Has just as much to do with it as anything else. So we're making progress, but I've lived up here in this area all my life. This is one of the hardest groups to get to change their attitudes and their mindsets. But we're getting there, and we will get there. It just might take us some time.
Thank you both so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, court consider approval of line item transfers and budget amendments.
There are 2 of each. Line transfers, first one is for the district attorney office into out of expense 824 out of investigative expense. Then, precinct 2, 2 tires and shoes, $4,807.98 out of fuel and oil. And JP2, her, tech fund, and to pay her administrative fee for her postage meter, $117.86 out of her equipment for the JP2 Tech Fund. And golf course, capital expenditures, $10,797.50, out of cost of irrigation lines. She had done this, and I had already placed the funds from the donations in there, and so she didn't actually need this one. So she's taking it back and put it where it was to begin with. Airport, capital, $969 out of his resale. That's all the line items. Then there's 3 budget amendments. The first one is non-departmental for roof repairs, $1 million. And that is from the TAC insurance for the roofs. And Commissioner Court, Precinct 1, equipment, 1,000 to 5,000, 1,996.55 to, was the lightning strike?
Yeah, my computer
Okay.
got burned up.
Put a new computer due to that. And then the courthouse security fund, guardian and service calls, for the miscellaneous, 1,208.45, but this is to, pay the monthly fee for the courthouse security.
Should we make a motion that we refund the, budget amendments and line transfers?
Order, all in favor? Accounts payable,
Accounts payable is $1,083,566.27 plus $15,779.34 for a Citibank card, once they get all turned in.
Make a motion to pay the bills.
all in favor? All right. We're gonna skip to C on this so that we can speak to them before we go into executive session. Court to discuss, consider, and negotiate preliminary terms of the proposed tax abatement agreement with Cross Trails Energy Storage Project LLC. We have Mike Fry, Zach Cropia, and I.
John Beebe.
John Beebe, and so they're gonna speak with us. I asked them to come to speak with you, because I wasn't 100% sure where y'all wanted to go. So they agreed to come and discuss what the options are, what you want to do, and go from there. So we started with the abatement was their pilot payment was going to be 30 some odd thousand a year for 10 years at, with 100% abatement. Then we went to them with the request to go to 80% abatement. They agreed to a 90% abatement with the same payment. You mentioned going to 85. So that's where I said, let's bring them here. So, there you go. Let's have a conversation.
I've always wondered, when this is for y'all, how much federal state money do y'all get for these projects?
For this battery and gravity is 0.
So who's funding all this is my question.
We are. Nell is.
Mike, you were mentioning to me in our last phone conversation about sticking with 100% abatement and changing the payment amount instead of going to an 80 or 85 or 90% abatement in the payment. Can you explain that, please?
Certainly, Judge, in most all the counties these days that are doing Chapter 3 total abatements, and they're structuring them in 100% abatements simply because there's no impact on your effective tax rate calculations.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that's why they pretty much 99% of jurisdictions, county, cities, hospital districts. And so, then you come up with a net tax savings based on the values on, for example, if you're with a solar project, the way they depreciate it, it's known, and they're gonna bottom out at 20% of the original cost. So pretty much everything's known value-wise, and the battery's gonna be the same type situation. So that's what a lot of people, they figure out or arrive at pilot payment based on the net tax savings over a 10-year period. So I think in the last one that was sent was it looked like a 90% abatement, but reality was it's probably 70 net tax savings with the pilot added into that.
Sure.
So,
And that absolutely makes sense in an economy like ours where we base so much of it on oil values around here. And that will fluctuate wildly from one year to the next. You get a 85% abatement on it and oil falls to nowhere. What it go minus a couple of years ago for a short time? Anyway.
My thoughts is, we have lots of businesses around here. I don't think Will mind me saying this, but there were $8 million dairy east of town that didn't pass.
They didn't ask.
You're exactly right, but my point is, for these gentlemen, I think the payment needs to be a little bit more, because it was 33,300 and something for 10 years. And then it would go to full taxable value, less than depreciation, if I understand it right. I just think the initial should be higher than that, because for a $50 billion project for the Billy Kinetic Energy, $33,000 a year just sounds like it's a little, not exactly fair to Scurry County, in my opinion.
Understood.
And that, I don't know about, well, I know what the pilot was, but then also with the 90% abatement, there would have been some property taxes added in there also. But if you look at, for example, if you look at a 100% abatement on the same valuation at a 65% net savings, that would probably put a payment of about right under $58,000 annually. So that would be around the net 65%.
Like I said, that's my issue. I'm as good as anybody who's been doing it since I've been here, bring business in and whatnot. And I wouldn't want you to build that thing for one, but I think it needs to be higher. I really do. And it's like I said, 33,000 or 50 million.
No, that's totally understand that.
That's kind of like,
Well, I don't know exactly what, it needs to be based on something, and that pilot needs to be based on something, So that's what we're trying to do. We'll agree on a net tax savings for the company, and then if you all would be agreeable to a certain pilot payment based on that net tax savings. And I think that's probably where most people find common ground. That way it's based on a certain number.
So 65% tax savings would generate roughly 60,000, 58.
Right under, yes, sir, 58.
I'd love to see it at 100, but you have to start somewhere. Because what little figure now I've done, roughly 100,000 a year for 10 years would be more in line, my opinion. But I'm looking out for everybody.
Yeah, and with these projects, we've run the economic models without the abatement, with certain percentages, with this being such a new technology, right? The margins are a little bit slimmer than what you think, right? Just because we are trying out a new technology, trying to put it here in Scurry County. And, we know it's proven, right? But it's still the first one being built, right? So,
There's a bunch of prototypes in Europe.
yes, sir.
I mean, if y'all were agreeable, I just, once again, 33,000 is just, seems like nothing. But
Would y'all entertain a 65 net 65 that we were mentioning here?
I would too. Absolutely. I think we've got to also think about that we're not the only ones getting paid. That are benefiting from this. The schools are getting.
The school is not eligible for.
For
they're
an
getting
abatement.
Yeah, they are
They
getting
will
tax
get
dollars,
taxes.
yes, they are.
The INS, right, is not.
4 million.
Yeah,
4 million
exactly.
over 10 years.
Then the college,
Yeah, in the hospital.
and then the hospital. And so there's got to be room for profit there somewhere.
And they follow us. What we
Yes.
do, they will follow.
Yeah,
You know, if we were to say, no, we're not gonna do this, both the college and the hospital lose out, because they won't do it.
And if y'all read the letter that we got from the chief appraiser, and she compared ISD with IRA, IRA is paying 65 cents per hundred, where because of all the projects that we've done, it's not ISD, because there are no projects in IRA's area that they tax on. And so there's a 65 cents and Snyder's is 6 cents because of these projects. So there's a lot more benefit than what we're talking about. And on top of that, ever since we started these projects, we see construction companies, maintenance companies, they're buying gas, they're staying in motels, they're eating our food. I mean, there's a lot more benefit here than what we're just talking about for Scurry County proper.
When you bring these batteries, I'm not talking kinetic because that's first of its kind, but when you bring a battery to an area, what do you see follow? Do you see anything follow that, any type of part of the industry? Because that's what Terry's talking about is the service industry's coming along behind it.
Yeah, well, usually there are, generators that follow behind the batteries, right? They see something that's helping store the energy, more generators may be willing to come out to that area.
And it's certainly gonna be text because this thing is autonomous, right?
Mhm.
I mean, it's automated. And so if you have a glitch in a computer, you're gonna be calling somebody out to take care of that glitch.
And like I mentioned in that presentation a couple months ago, we have an on-site and off-site monitoring system for this and for the gravity as well. So we know if something even gets a little bit out of place, we know it real time, so.
I know that the batteries lose over time. But from my understanding of the kinetic energy, it can go as far as 60 plus years.
Yes,
Without any degradation.
yes.
Because you're using General Electric, just like they do at these dams where they're producing hydroelectric.
Yeah.
And so very proven technology in that regard.
Yeah,
And-
very basic mechanics.
And this is and I think Cody asked me if the tower, you showed me a picture of it, was what they were talking about here. What they're talking about here is actually a different method. It's a building that's enclosed that is modular. And so you get 10 megs, if I understand correctly, per module. And so you can expand that. And
The
as
whole
we
thing will
talked
take
about,
up about an acre.
as the batteries degrade, you may make it a full kinetic energy
Yeah,
model.
definitely, yeah.
So we've got intermittency here, more and more of it, solar and wind.
Just this last weekend.
And absolutely. And so we see our wind shut down constantly because ERCOT's saying we've got too much power on the grid. You've got to shut them down. So I see all these hundreds, if not thousands, of turbines shut down when the wind's blowing because there's no place for that power to go. So this is going to benefit Scurry County as well. And we got a benefit because of heat rate. Back 10 years ago, our energy here was down lower than ever. Right now, we're seeing an increase in our electric costs because we don't have projects like this that are coming into our county to store that electricity until it's actually needed.
It will help stabilize the grid.
Absolutely. And so those turbines could be turning, solar could be putting out electricity and filling up this kinetic energy, pulling these blocks to the top, getting it fully charged for whenever the next time we need that power. I was also intrigued to see that this company is on the New York Stock Exchange and made 31.8 million before EBITDA from payments. And they're also, according to the call, they're building this thing in China as well. They're building it in Australia. They're already putting, many companies are putting, or banks, investors, are putting money into this because they can see from Switzerland that this thing works. And SoftBank, 115 million, a couple of different what was it? Started with an A of $50 million there with China that's doing this. So it's something that, I mean, nobody believed Tesla was going to work, but guess what? 1 million cars last year. Analysts are saying 1.5 million this year. It's real. And we need more technology like this in our communities. So I'm happy with that, if we can agree to do that. And thank you for visiting with us.
You're talking about the 65.
Mhm.
Ms. Summers?
As far as this 33,000, I think Sean kind of touched on that topic. Seems like last time this was discussed, Brandon Williamson said something about that amount should be closer to 120,000. He suggested y'all take that into consideration when you're talking about this pilot per year. I suggest you don't settle for 33,000 per year. And that's just based on me watching what Brandon Williamson said in the meeting prior to this, that it should be closer to 120,000.
For a $50 million project, $33,000 sounds like chicken feed to me. I'm a citizen, and when a company comes in and gets tax abatements, and you're needing to build things, and you're needing to hire new people, and you're needing for the health care to go up higher, it's going to fall on our tax burdens, not necessarily theirs. But 100 grand sounds like to me should be about right. Don't laugh, it's not funny.
Well, it's not
And
33,000, 60,000 already. And
But
we're talking about the hospital, the college, and the schools.
We're talking about
taxpayers in
tax
this state,
abatements.
a $50 million project. How many people are going to come in here and stay permanently with this project?
0 times 0 is
Zero.
still 0.
Zero will come in and zero will stay. And that's what we need. We
That's
need
not
an
what he
influx
said.
of people. More
He wasn't saying that. There
But we
will be
need
jobs. There will be
influx of
4 jobs that will
people
come in.
staying here for long term, not just for a short term environment. We need lots of people to come here
I agree.
and filling houses,
Projects.
filling rentals, buying houses, helping the taxpayers be able to pay some of this load. It's really hard for us.
What you don't understand is those companies that would bring in large amounts of people need large amounts of water, and we don't have it.
Well, that's
What we're getting is really the best we can get. And
I'm just
that
saying, is $100,000 going to be so much that y'all can't do a project a year? Is that going to cut you?
Yeah, so like I said, even
I
when we
mean,
ran
this
it
is the
as
prime
a,
place. You've heard about location,
Okay, thank you,
location.
Ms. Eckert.
We are location.
No,
That's it. I'm just
Zach, you
asking
were
them a
gonna say
question.
something.
yeah, so like I said, we ran these models, right, on this, and, with this being, with it being a new technology and just, $50 million is a huge investment, but there's a lot that goes into these projects, right? So we really would like to stay around this, 65 range, and, like you said, it has a cascading effect throughout other districts, right? So, if we weren't able to get this, it would be a big talking point within the company. We couldn't move it, somewhere else.
So 35,000 is gonna keep y'all from doing it.
Okay, so
That's right.
What do you
35,000 will
think?
keep y'all from doing it.
I think that they're,
do you want to go into executive session to discuss this, or do you want to discuss?
I think we've discussed.
Well, I'm just
I think so
saying,
too.
I'm just saying 35,000 is gonna keep y'all from doing it. I don't think so. Oh, that's chicken.
Second, all in favor? All right,
Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Can't wait to see it.
can you send that to me again?
Yes, yeah, we'll email y'all.
Perfect, thank you. Entertain motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion. Third, sorry.
All right, all in favor? All right, thank you all.
35,000 is gonna keep anybody from stopping.
I don't know about that, man.
Thank you. Glad to have you.
Yeah.
It's gonna all up in the air. Do you really believe 35,000 keeps away from doing the project?
Thank you, Jimmy. Yes, sir. Good to see you.